Hi, I'm Libby Holmgren, Supervisor of the Math Resource Center here at Johnson County Community College. Welcome to the video on the Introduction to the TI-86 calculator. Before we get started, I would suggest that you go ahead and pick up the note sheet that's available to you. That way you can really pay attention to using the calculator during the video, and the notes are already provided for you so that you don't have to take any. Also, I'd like to remind you to go ahead and make use of the pause and the rewind buttons on your video machine. If you get confused about any part of what's going on, it would be a better idea to stop and figure it out before you proceed. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the keyboard on this calculator to begin with. All of the number keys are in gray, as well as the decimal point and the negation key. All of the operations, the enter key, and most of the other keys are black. There is a yellow key up here at the top that's marked second, and if you'll notice, up above most of the other keys of the calculator are things written in that yellow color. So in order to access those things, we will first press the second key and then press the key where that item is that we would like to get. We also have a blue alpha key, and you'll notice that up above most of the keys of the calculator are written letters or other symbols in blue. In order to get those, we will first press the alpha key and then the appropriate key after that. Let's get started by turning the calculator on. The on key is located on the lower left portion of the keyboard, so press it at this time. I would like you to type in a problem 4 plus 2 times 3. Now the first thing that you'll probably notice is that when we press the multiplication symbol, that what actually showed up on the screen was an asterisk. This will always be the case. Before we press enter to get the answer, I also want to talk to you a little bit about order of operations. Now you've studied these things before, and you've probably realized that first of all things in parentheses get done, then exponents, then multiplication and division, and finally addition and subtraction. The only ones of those things in this particular problem are addition and multiplication. So we will expect that the multiplication will happen first and then the addition. So let's press enter to see what happens. The enter key is down here on the lower right of your keyboard. Okay, we got 10. That would mean that 2 was multiplied times 3 and then 4 was added to it. So the order of operations was just as we expected. Let's type in another problem. 12 divided by 3 times 4. Now you notice that I said divided by 3, and I pressed the key on the keyboard that looks like a division symbol. But on the actual display, we see what looks like a fraction bar. So remember that when you do see a fraction bar, it is going to mean division. Now this particular problem only involves division and multiplication. When we have a problem that involves just division and multiplication, we will do these operations in order from left to right in all of our mathematical problems. So we will expect that the calculator will do the same thing. Let's press enter at this time and see what happens. Okay, we got 16 for an answer. What would we get if we did this in our heads? Let's take 12 divided by 3, which is 4, and multiply by 4, which is 16. So the calculator has done the order of operations just as we have learned in all of our mathematics courses. Now I would like to put this problem in again, but show multiplication in a little bit of a different way. So go ahead and type it in, but when it comes time to showing multiplication by 4, we're going to use the parentheses instead. You know that when you write it on a piece of paper with a pencil, that many times you write it like this. When we press enter, we get exactly the same answer. So you see that in order to do multiplication, you can either use the multiplication symbol over here on the right-hand side of the keyboard, or you can use the parentheses. Either one will work. Now's a good time to talk about screen contrast. We have 3 problems on our display. If for some reason you are working in sunlight or some kind of different lighting, or maybe your calculator is running low on its batteries, then sometimes it's nice to make the display look a little bit darker. So in order to do that, what I would do would be press the second key and then the up arrow. or perhaps the second key and the down arrow. As you do this, you probably notice that there was a little number in the upper right-hand portion of the screen. This number indicates the darkness of our screen contrast. Now the largest that this number can be is 9. So if in adjusting your screen contrast you discover that that number is a 9, it is probably time to put new batteries into the calculator. Okay, we're going to press clear at this time to go on to something else. The clear key is located right here. Press the clear key and everything has disappeared. Now it is possible to get back to a problem that you have just done. To do that, we're going to press the second key and then the enter key. I get the problem that I have just completed. I also can go back to a few of the other problems that I've done by repeatedly doing the second and enter. That's the first problem that we did together. Now that it's on the screen, let's do something else with editing. Let's say that we really wanted to do the problem 4 plus 2 in parentheses times 3. To get the parentheses, I will move over to the left with my arrow, and now I need to insert a left parenthesis. In order to insert, I will go second, and then right over here above DEL I see insert. Now I can press my left parenthesis. Now I will arrow over, putting my cursor on top of the multiplication symbol, and I'm going to insert my right parenthesis. Now arrowing over, I see that I actually have the problem that I had talked about doing. Pressing enter, I find that I have a different answer than before, which is a good thing, because we now know that the 4 plus 2 should happen before I multiply by 3, and I do indeed get an answer of 18. Let's clear this problem, and we're going to type in a multiplication problem. I've decided that I would like to multiply 7 times 5,280. But in doing so, I accidentally press a couple of extra zeros. In order to get rid of those, what I can do is arrow over, put the cursor on the character that I would like to delete, and actually press this delete key right here. So I press it again because I wanted to multiply 7 times 5,280. Since that's what I have on the screen now, I'm ready to press enter and get my answer. Now we talked a little bit about the fraction bar and the division key. Keep that in mind. Now we did do a problem with it, but we're going to do another problem now that involves fractions. We're going to take 2/3 plus 4/5. So in order to get the fraction 2/3, I'm going to have to do 2 divided by 3. Then I will add 4 divided by 5. You'll notice that I didn't put parentheses around the 2/3 or around the 4/5, and it's not necessary due to the order of operations. Remember that the division will always happen before the addition. So I have on my screen 2/3 plus 4/5. At this time, I'm going to press enter to get the answer. This calculator has given me an answer, and you notice that the answer is in decimal form. The calculator will always give me the answers in decimal form. Sometimes it's nice to get that decimal changed back into a fraction. So for a moment, we're going to look at that capability of the calculator, changing a decimal into a fraction. We're going to clear the screen at this time and go into the catalog. Catalog is located right here, written in yellow, up above the key that says Custom. So since it's written in yellow, we're going to go second, hit that Custom key, and you see on your screen, you've got Catalog/Variables. Now down at the bottom of my display, I see Catalog, All, and several other things written. What I'm interested in is Catalog. So in order to access Catalog, I'm going to press the F1 key. Now, this doesn't seem to have anything that has to do with changing something into fractions, so in order to find that, I'm going to go to the beginning of my catalog. Now the catalog is actually in alphabetical order. I'm going to press the A key over here. That takes me to the beginning of the catalog, and then I'm going to scroll backwards with my up key until I see something that looks like changing something into a fraction. There it is, right there. So go ahead and scroll up, and when you have your arrow pointing to the 2 frac like mine does, then you are ready to proceed. Now what I'd like to do at this time is put this capability into my custom menu, because I think that I would probably like to change decimals into fractions on a fairly regular basis, and I don't want to have to go to a lot of trouble all the time in order to find it. So press Custom. You notice that it's right in the middle, so press F3 to get Custom. And at this time, my custom menu is completely blank, so I can put it anywhere. I think I'd like to put that 2 frac over there on the left, so I will press F1. And you'll notice that 2 frac has been pasted into the first position. Okay, we've got the 2 frac into the custom, and we will be able to use that in the future. But I don't want to see all of those things on the screen anymore. I'd like to get back to my main screen, which I usually call the home screen. In order to get rid of these menus, what I need to do is press the exit key right up here at the top. Press the exit key once, you'll see that the top menu is gone. Press the exit key again, you'll see that several other things disappear from the screen, but I'm still not back to my home screen, so I will press exit one more time to get back to my home screen. Let's type in a problem that I'd like to change into a fraction. How about 0.145? Okay, I'd like to get that decimal changed into a fraction, so let's now go to our custom menu right here. And you'll notice that in your custom menu is the 2 frac option. So press F1. Now it says 0.145 arrow frac. That means that 0.145 will be changed into a fraction. Pressing Enter, I discover that 145 thousandths is changed into the fraction 29/200ths. Now it is possible to change repeating decimals into fractions. I think I'm going to type in a repeating decimal, 0.27, on and on and on, and I'm actually going to have to put in the 27 many, many times so that the calculator actually believes that I meant this to be a repeating decimal and I didn't just have a long decimal. I'd like this repeating decimal to be changed into a fraction, so let's go with F1, 2 frac. Press Enter, and it has changed this repeating decimal into its appropriate fraction, which is 3/11ths. Now remember that the reason that we even talked about changing something into a fraction was because of a problem that we had done a little bit earlier. Let's use our second entry capability of the calculator to get that problem back. Second, up here on the top, entry way down here on the bottom. That's not the problem I want. Let's do second entry again. That's not the problem I want. Let's do it again. Here's the problem that I wanted. I will press Enter to get my answer, and now I want to change it into a fraction. So what I will do will be press the F1 key to activate 2 frac. Now notice what's on the screen. This is something else that we needed to talk about anyway. You see ANS and then the arrow and then frac. What this means is that I am going to change the answer that I just got into a fraction. Pressing Enter, I get 22/15, which is the correct answer for this problem. Now another way that I could have done this would have been to go ahead and get my problem back again with second entry, and I could have just put the 2 frac right there. Then when I press Enter, it gives me a fractional answer right off the bat. Now you've seen that we can put something into the custom menu, and we'll probably put a couple of other things into the custom menu before we're done. We also looked a little bit at the ANS or answer capability of the calculator. If you ever start a problem with one of the operations over here on the right-hand side of the calculator, you'll see that ANS appears because the calculator is assuming that you would like to work on the answer that you just did. There's another aspect of ANS that I'd like to talk about. Let's clear our screen. Let's exit out of the custom menu by pressing exit. And we're now going to do a little bit of a longer problem. I'm going to do the problem, the square root of 6,400 minus 4 times 5 times 75. Now I certainly could put all of this in at once if I'd like, but sometimes we feel like we have a little bit more control over the problem if we do bits and pieces. So let's do the part that's underneath the radical first. 6,400 subtract 4 times 5 times 75. Okay, I've got it typed in. Let's press enter to get the answer. But what I really wanted to do was to take the square root of that big quantity. I don't have to type 4,900 in again. What I can do is take the square root of the previous answer. Well, we haven't used the square root key yet, so let's do second, and then the square root is located right down here on top of the x squared. So do second, then the x squared key to get the square root, and rather than typing in 4,900, I'm going to go second and then ANS. You notice that ANS is down here on the bottom right. Second, ANS, and what the calculator has done has been that it has put 4,900 into the square root. Pressing enter, I get the 70 that I was expecting. Let's clear this problem to go on to something else. Now we're going to talk a little bit about subtraction and negation. We've used the subtraction key at least once. You'll notice that it is located over here on the right-hand side, and the negation key is located down here on the bottom. Now it's in parentheses. The negation key is gray, the subtraction key is black. It is important to use these keys appropriately. Of course, the calculator is going to give you an answer to nearly every problem, but it will give you the answer to the problem that you type in. So it's very important that you get it typed in the way that you mean. Let's do 2 subtract negative 7. 2 subtract negative 7. You notice that I use both the subtraction and the negation keys, and that I use them in the appropriate places. Notice that the negation key looks a little bit different on the screen. It's up a little bit higher and it's smaller. Now you know from your past studies in math that 2 subtract negative 7 is actually the same thing as 2 plus 7, so when you press enter you will expect to get the number 9, and you do. Now sometimes we forget and we do enter these things in the wrong way, so let's do it and see what happens. If I press the 2 and then the subtraction key twice and then the 7, it may not look that bad on the calculator screen. In fact, sometimes when we write it on our paper, it looks like that, but we know what we mean. The calculator may not understand what it is that we mean when we say 2 subtract 7. Let's press enter, see what happens. Well, it's given us a syntax error, and of course syntax error means that we've written something wrong. At this point, we have 2 choices on our calculator screen. Go to is written over there on the left up above F1, and quit is on the right up above F5. Now we could just quit and guess, but let's go to and see what happens. Press F1, and you'll notice that the cursor is now blinking where we have put something in the wrong way. Okay, we need to change that particular symbol to be a negation key. So press the negation key down here on the lower right. It's now replaced the subtraction key, which was the wrong one, and if I press enter, I get the answer that I was expecting. Now we used 2 subtraction keys that time. Let's do the same problem again, doing it wrong again by doing 2 and then 2 negation keys and a 7. It still might not look that bad, but when we press enter, do we get the 9 that we're expecting? No, we got 14. What the calculator has done is taken 2 and then 2 negations, which multiply out to be a positive, and I get 2 times 7, which gives me 14. That's not what I meant to say, so it really wouldn't be appropriate to type the problem in this way. Well, I wanted to do these problems with you just to show you that it is very important to use the subtraction and the negation keys correctly, and if you do, you're certainly going to get the answers that you expect, and you won't have a surprise. Let's press clear, and we'll go on to another topic. We're going to put in some powers and roots at this time. First of all, we're going to put in 3 squared. So press the number 3, and in order to get it so that it looks like it's squared, I'm going to use this key that's over here on the left that looks like x squared. Now when I press it, I'm not going to get an x on the screen. I'm just going to get the square. It actually looks like 3 squared, where the 2 is up and to the right. And since we square things a lot, the TI people have made this a key all of its own. Let's press enter, and we certainly get the 9 that we expect. Now let's do 3 to the 3rd power. Press the 3, and if you look at your calculator keyboard, you'll see that there isn't anything that looks like we're going to be able to cube that 3. So what we're going to have to do when we have powers such as 3 or anything above it is to use this caret. There it is, right there. Now if you press the caret and then the number 3, we will have 3 to the power of 3. Now it may not look that pretty, but it is going to give us the correct answer of 27. Okay, let's do a square root. Now we did a square root a moment ago, but just to review, let's remember that it's located over here above x squared. We'll do second, we'll get square root by pressing the x squared, and I would like to do the square root of 9. So I press 9, press enter, and I get the answer that I was expecting. Now a square root is easy, and since we use square roots so much of the time, you can see it right there on your keyboard. But if you would like to take a cube root or a 4th root or anything like that, we are going to have to go into another special capability of this calculator. So since I think that I'll probably like to use this a lot, this is something else that I'm going to put in to my custom menu. Let's go to Catalog at this time with second, and then it's over here up above Custom. Press Catalog again with F1. And this time I don't want 2 frac, but I am going to go up to find the particular character that will give me an xth root. It's kind of a funny looking symbol, but just keep arrowing up until you find the symbol that looks like this. Okay, you need your arrow to be on the xth root. And we're going to put that into your custom menu by again pressing F3. And since the first position is already used up, I would like to put it in the second position with F2. All right, now we have put xth root into the custom menu. Let's exit out of all of this by pressing exit once, twice, and a 3rd time. I'm back to my home screen. Well, our problem that we're going to do is the cube root of 27. In order to put that on the calculator screen, I'm going to press 3 for cube root. I'm going to go to my custom menu. I'm going to choose xth root, type 27, and this is what I need to find the cube root of 27. When you press enter, you find that you do indeed get 3. Let's do the square root of -9. Now I don't need that xth root anymore. I can either leave it on my screen or I can get rid of it, and I believe I'll do that at this time by pressing the exit key. Okay, let's do the square root of -9 with second, square root over here, press -9. Now think back to what kind of an answer we will expect. We know that this answer isn't a real number. Actually, it's an imaginary number. What will happen? When I press enter, I get what looks like an ordered pair. Actually, because the answer is an imaginary number, the calculator is giving me an answer because it will deal with complex numbers, but that ordered pair 0, 3 actually stands for 0 plus 3i. The real portion, the 0, is first, and the imaginary portion is after the comma. So I've got 0 plus 3i, which is a complex number. Now we're going to do a problem that has a fractional power. Let's clear the screen, and let's do 8 to the power of 2/3. Now use your caret over here on the upper right. Since I want a power of 2/3, I'm going to have to put 2/3 in parentheses. That's the way your screen should look. Now let's talk for a minute about what kind of an answer we expect. A power of 2/3 means that I will have the cube root of 8, which is 2, and then square that, which is 4. Press enter, and you will discover that you do indeed get the number 4. Now perhaps we should try this problem again without the parentheses just to see what would happen. Let's get the problem back with second entry and move left. Take advantage of the delete key right here. Go over on the right, placing the cursor on the right hand parenthesis, and I'm going to press delete again. Now this doesn't look too different from what we just did a moment ago. But according to the order of operations, powers should happen before division. So I imagine that what's going to happen is that I will have x squared, which is 64, and then 64 will be divided by 3. Okay, that's exactly what happened. And that's not really what I wanted to have in the first place, is it? If I want x to the power of 2/3, I'm going to have to remember to put the 2/3 in parentheses if I want to get the appropriate answer. Well, we're ready to go on to a different topic, so let's clear this screen to get ready for that. Now we're going to talk a little bit about constants, conversions, and some complex numbers. This particular calculator has some built-in constants that are used on a fairly regular basis. In some of your science courses, you might have come across, for instance, a number such as Avogadro's number. So many constants such as Avogadro's number are stored right here in the calculator. You'll see that CONS is up above the number 4, right there. So let's access it with second, and I'll hit the number 4 to see CONS. Now you see that you have several different choices, and the one on the left says BLTIN. That stands for built-in. The built-in constants are what I'm going to get if I press the F1 key, which I'm going to do at this time. And I'd mentioned Avogadro's number. Though you won't be using that in any of your math classes, you might be using it in some of your science courses, so I'm going to go with the NA right there at the beginning, press F1, it shows up on the screen, and when I press enter, I do indeed see Avogadro's number. Now another capability of the calculator is conversions. Let's get out of this menu to go into that, so press exit a couple of times. Press clear to clear that home screen. Now let's look at the conversion capability of the calculator. Say, for instance, we would like to change -5 degrees Celsius into Fahrenheit. Let's start by placing -5 in parentheses on the screen, being sure that I do put the -5 in parentheses. Now, in order to go to a conversion, I will go to the key that's labeled 5 here, because you see that above it, it says CONV. So second, and then that 5 key gets me into the conversion menu. Since I'm doing a problem that involves temperature, I'm going to press F5 for temp. Now, since I'm going to change from -5 degrees Celsius, I will go to F1 for Celsius. And you notice that what has occurred on here is not just degrees Celsius, but also a little arrow. Because we're in the conversion menu, the calculator knows that we will be going from one to another. So right now I have -5 degrees Celsius changed into, and since I would like to change into Fahrenheit, I'm going to press F2 to get to Fahrenheit. Let's press enter to get the answer. And that is the correct answer. Now, I mentioned that it was very important to use parentheses. Let's see what happens if I don't use the parentheses. To get the problem back with the minimum amount of work, I'm going to go second, enter, and go back and delete the parentheses, DEL and DEL. When I press enter, I get an answer, but this is the wrong answer. Okay, to move on to the next problem, let's press the exit key a couple of times and the clear key. And we will go now and do a problem that involves complex numbers. You saw a moment ago that we were able to take the square root of -9 and that the calculator handled that. Well, we also can actually do a problem that involves complex numbers, so we're going to do 3 plus 2i times 5 minus I. Now, just as the calculator gave me my answer in ordered pair form, that's how I'm going to have to enter these complex numbers. So to get 3 plus 2i, I'm going to enter the ordered pair 3, 2. The comma hasn't been used yet, and it is located over here on the left. Put it in, put your 2, close your parentheses, and I said that I wanted to multiply this, so put another parenthesis, and I now need the ordered pair 5, -1. Now when I press enter, my calculator will actually multiply these two complex numbers together, and I get 17 plus 7i. Now it doesn't look like that, but we know that 17, 7 actually stands for the complex number 17 plus 7i. Clear your screen, and we will now go on and look at absolute value and inverse. Let's say that I would like to do the absolute value of -5. Now when you look at your keyboard, you'll see that you don't see anything that looks like absolute value symbols. I don't see ABS that stands for absolute or anything like that. So what I'm going to do is use my catalog, and I don't think it'll be necessary to put it into my custom at this time, but you could do that at any time that you wish. But let's access catalog with second, and then catalog over here up above custom. Go into catalog with F1, and in order to get to the A portion of my alphabet in the catalog, I'm going to press the letter A, and I see that ABS is the first entry in the alphabet under catalog. So all I will do now is press enter, and my ABS will be pasted into my home screen. I wanted to do the absolute value of -5, press -5 at this time, and press enter. We know that the absolute value of -5 is indeed 5. Now you're not going to see the straight up and down lines that you usually use to indicate absolute value, but it is going to simply say ABS. Well, let's do another absolute value problem. Let's do the absolute value of 2 minus 8. Rather than going into my catalog again, I'm going to do second entry. I'm going to be a little bit lazy and take the easy way out. I'm going to go to the left. I don't want my -5 anymore, but I want to take the absolute value of 2 minus 8. So I will just place the parenthesis on top of that negative, 2, subtract 8, close the parenthesis, and the previous problem has been covered up. Press enter, and you get the answer that I hope you were expecting, because of course the absolute value of 2 minus 8 is the absolute value of -6, which is 6. Now I would like to do 2 to the -1 power. Press your number 2, and let's take a look at this keyboard. Up above the double E, you will see x to the -1. This is the key that I'm going to get now. So do second x to the -1, and remember from your past studies in math that 2 to the -1 means 1 over 2 to the first power, or 1/2. So press enter and get the 1/2. I would like you to press clear again because we're going to do another problem, this time involving scientific notation. Type in 0.123 divided by 456. When you press enter to get the answer, it looks a little strange, doesn't it? 2.697 and so on. There's just lots and lots of digits. But the strange part of this seems to be the little e with the -4. So what exactly does this answer mean? Well, it means 2.697 and so on times 10 to the -4 power. Or in other words, 0.000267 and so on. Now, whenever the calculator is dealing with a really small or a really large number, it will revert to using this type of notation, scientific notation. But it wouldn't be appropriate for you to write down on your paper 2.697e -4. What you'd need to write down would be 2.697 times 10 to the -4, or if you would like it in its expanded form, you would write 0.0002697 and so on, however many digits that you would like. Clear this problem, and now we're ready to go on to evaluating a function. Now, so far we have not discussed how to put a function into the calculator, so we'll have to do that first. We're going to make use of the graph key on the calculator, and even though we're not going to actually graph anything today, we still Hi, I'm Libby Holmgren, Supervisor of the Math Resource Center at JCCC. Functions such as x squared. Now I have two choices in order to type the letter x. Actually I have three choices, but two of them are going to be used a little bit more. The one that I usually use is x var, which is located up here. Press that and you will see the x. I also could have used, if I had wanted, F1 for the x that's located right there under the y of x. I also could have used the alpha key and the x down here above the plus. Okay, but that's a little bit harder to get at, so I usually use the x var myself. Now I want to have x squared. So just as we squared a 3 a little bit ago, I'm going to press this x squared key over on the left, and I will see x squared. So I had to actually press an x to get the x variable, and then I pressed x squared to get the little square. Okay, I have my function entered, and I'm going to now think about what would happen if I wanted to put a value of -5 in for x. Now we all know that the answer is going to be 25, but you will undoubtedly be doing some problems that have more to them in the future. So let's look at the different ways that the calculator can evaluate a function. I am going to first of all do eval. So that is something that I'm going to put into my custom menu. We've already put in a couple of things. I'm going to put one more thing into my custom menu. So let's exit out of this screen. Now let's go to our catalog with second, and then press the custom key because it says catalog right above that. Press F1 for catalog, and I would like to find eval. In order to do that, I'm going to press the key that has the E above it and arrow down until you see eval. Now I said I wanted to put this into my custom menu, so go to F3, and I see that the third position is available, so press F3 and eval will be pasted in there. Okay, let's exit out of this with exit, exit, exit. And now I'm going to use the eval capability. So go to your custom menu, choose eval, and type the number -5. Now what will happen is that the calculator will evaluate the function that I have typed in at y of x. So when I press enter, I get an answer. Now if I had had more than one function typed in at y of x, which is certainly possible, we will do that later, then you would see more than one answer on the screen. But for now, since I only have one function in, I only get one answer. Another way to evaluate a function is by using something that looks like function notation. Let's exit out of this with my exit, clear my screen, And I'm going to get my screen so that it looks like y1 with a set of parentheses after it. In other words, y1 of -5. In order to get my y, I'm going to have to go to second alpha and actually type in a lowercase y. I don't know if you remember or not, but a moment ago when we looked at that graph screen, we saw that the y was definitely a lowercase y, so I will have to type it in as lowercase. Over here, up above the blue alpha key, you see alpha written in yellow in lowercase. So do second, then the alpha key. You'll notice on your screen at this time that you have a lowercase a. That means that whatever I go with now will be choosing the letter and that it will be in lowercase. So look around for where the letter Y is. You'll notice that it's down here up above the 0. Press the 0 key and a lowercase y has appeared on my screen. I would also like the number 1. Then I'm going to type in parentheses, -5, close parentheses. Now this is the way your screen should look, and we hope to get the number 25 as the answer. And that's exactly what I get. So I have evaluated my first function, y1, with x being a value of -5. Now, a third way that you can evaluate a function is with the use of the table on your calculator. Let's clear this screen, and you'll notice that there is a special key that is labeled table right here. Let's press table at this time. You'll notice that you have 2 keys to choose from. You've got F1, table, and then F2, TBLST. That stands for table set. Let's go to table set to begin with. Now I'm going to choose to start my table with the number -6. Now it doesn't matter what you choose, but I just am going to choose -6. Arrow down, and I would like to go with integer increments of 1, so I'm going to leave that on a 1, but you can certainly change it whenever you want. Then I'm going to go down here and change my independent variable to auto. So you can see that my cursor is blinking on auto. Press enter, and now I'm going to get an automatic table. The only choice in my menu on the screen is table, so I will go to that now with F1. And you see the automatic table that you have created. You see X as the label on the left, Y1 as the label in the column right next to it. Underneath the X, you see that we have begun with -6, just like we asked, and that our table is going according to increments of 1 integer at a time. It goes to -5, -4, -3, -2, and so on. And then under the Y1, you see what happens when all of these numbers have been put in. Now what I really wanted was to evaluate the function at -5. I have far more than that, but if I look at the -5, I see that opposite it is indeed the 25 that I would have been looking for. Now I'm not just stuck on this screen though. I can use my up and down arrows to see more of what's going on. If I use my up arrow, I can go way back as far as I'd like. And if I use my down arrow, I can see more numbers this way. You can see quite a few different places if you'd like. Now, I mentioned that the table could be either set on automatic or on ask. So let's go back and look at having a table that is set on ask. So let's go to table set with F1. I'm going to go ahead and leave my table start on 5. It doesn't matter whether it's there or not, but it'll be fine. But the important thing here is that I'm going to go down to the independent variable and choose ask. So when your cursor is blinking on ask, press the enter key to choose ask. Now I'm going to go back to my table with F1, and you'll notice that your table has cleared out. That's because the table has been placed on ask mode. In other words, it's waiting for me to ask about a particular value. So I'm going to type in the number -5. Notice that it shows up kind of near the bottom of my screen. Press enter. The -5 appears underneath the X, and the answer appears under the Y1. Let's try a couple of Hi, I'm Libby Holmgren, supervisor of the math. Press enter, the answer appears under the Y1, and I see that the answer is 10,000. I could, for instance, put in a number like 2/3. 2 divided by 3, remember that's how I enter that fraction. Press enter, and the calculator has changed it into a decimal format, but that's just fine. It has given me the answer that I've requested. The table is very nice when you're dealing with inconvenient, very large, very small numbers, anything that's out of the ordinary. I think I'm going to type in 100,000. And when I have that typed in, I'm ready to press enter. And I see that I have an answer under Y1. Now I've got one of those E's again that we investigated a few moments ago. The problem that we had done before involved a very small number. This involves a very large number. 1e10 actually means 1 times 10 to the 10th power. Now I'm going to put my cursor actually on that 1e10, and you'll see at the bottom of your screen the number in its expanded form. So this is another way that you can use the calculator to find the value of a particular function at values that you choose. All right, let's exit out of this by pressing the exit key. And I don't need to press clear because by pressing exit this time, I got back to my home screen. Now, one final thing that we're going to cover on this introductory video is poly. Now, what this does is allow you to find the solution to a polynomial equation. Poly is located over here up above program. Okay, so let's get poly by doing second program, and I see that the first thing that I'm asked for is the order of my polynomial equation. Well, I think that we'll go ahead and solve the equation 0 equals 3x squared plus 14x minus 5. The order is 2 because x squared is involves the highest power on my polynomial function. In other words, 2 is the degree of this function. It's the order that I'm going to place in here. So put 2, enter, and now you can see that you are being asked for the coefficient of x squared, the coefficient of the x, and the constant value. So put in a 3 for the coefficient of x squared, press enter, 14, press enter, and negative 5. I can press enter or not. I am done. Pressing enter doesn't give me the answer though. Take a look at your screen and you'll see that you can either clear. I don't think I'm going to clear because I'm happy with the values that I've put in, or I can go over on the right hand side with F5 and solve. So press F5 to solve your polynomial function, and you will see that you have a negative 5 and 0.3 repeating, which, as we all know, is the number 1/3. Well, we have covered all of the different things on this calculator that we're going to cover on the introductory video, but there are far more things that we could have talked about. This will give you a good start, and I really hope that by going through this video that you'll be able to get going on it and learn even more about your calculator in the future. Now remember that in order to get away from the screen such as this and into doing something else, one last reminder, you will use your exit key to get back to your home screen. Also, you might like to know how to turn the calculator off, because if you just leave it on, it will eventually shut off, but you're going to use up your batteries a little more quickly that way. So go ahead and look down here on the lower left and you'll see that OFF is written above on. We will choose that with second, on, and the calculator is turned off. Well, I certainly hope that you enjoy this TI-86.